He is the young master of a mafia family, supposed to inherit his father's position and live a carefree life. But because his childhood friend once said she liked gentle men, he gave up his identity as a young master, became a good guy for 10 years. Even when bullied at school he never fought back. He only wanted to be the man in the girl's heart. But the girls secretly got together with a thug from school. Seeing this, Jishang felt like he was struck by a thunderbolt. When he returned to the classroom he seemed to have lost his soul. Didn't even hear his classmates' greetings. Just stared at the girl in front of him. He thought about sending her a message to ask. But after editing it he didn't have the courage to send it. As the bell rang for the end of class, Jishang couldn't hold it in anymore. He asked Xu Zhen if she was with Shen Jingjia now. "Don't you like kind people?" Xu Zhen replied, "Don't you think bad boys are cool?" Seeing this, Jishang couldn't hold back any longer. Remembering how Xu Zhen's father often drank heavily when they were young, and how every time he got drunk he would beat her, Jishang would always quietly stay by her side. He listened to Xu Zhen say that when she grew up, she would marry a kind man like Jishang. Because of that one sentence, Jishang had been a good guy for 10 years. But now she no longer likes gentle people. Jishang grabbed Xu Zhen's hand. "Actually, I'm very bad. Bad blood runs through my veins. My father is the leader of the Fire Bear gang. We have countless underlings at home. With just one word I can make those who bully me disappear. From here they'll be gone." After hearing Jishang's words, Xu Zhen laughed. "You must be belittling yourself because you're worried about me. You're really a good friend." Seeing this, Jishang didn't say anything more. As the two were about to leave the school, Shen Jingjia suddenly called out to Xu Zhen. He said he would take her to KTV to study math. Before leaving, Shen Jingjia didn't forget to mock Jishang. Seeing the woman he loved in another man's arms, Jishang ground his teeth in anger. "Since you like bad boys, I'll show you what a real bad boy is." Back at home, Jishang quickly found his uncle. He was Shu, the leader of the Fire Bear gang. "Uncle Shu, I need your help. I want to become a bad man." Uncle Shu was very surprised when he heard this. Didn't the young master always want to be a good person? In response to Uncle Shu's question, Jishang's mind kept flashing with images of the two of them being intimate. Because now he no longer had a reason to stay kind. What he needed to do now was to beat Shen Jingjia badly, and then take Xu Zhen back. Uncle Shu told Jishang that to become a bad man, he first had to learn to manage his expressions. Then he needed the right kind of clothes. But when he returned to his room and saw the walls covered in certificates, he fell silent. At that moment a knock came at the door. It was the third in command of the Fire Bear gang, Jishang. Don't be fooled by his playful demeanor at home. He was the kind of man who would face off with wild boars outside. "Young master, I'll make you into a man like me." When Jishang came out again, he had completely transformed. The next day Jishang arrived at school dressed in this outfit. Following his uncle's advice, he made himself look more fierce. But when faced with his classmates' questions, he almost couldn't hold back. But thinking about what Uncle Shu had told him, he managed to hold it in, until Xu Zhen asked him to go to the convenience store with her. When facing Xu Zhen, he still compromised. Xu Zhen looked at Jishang today and thought he seemed like a different person. But Jishang's next words left Xu Zhen frozen in place. "You should change first. 10 years ago, because of your words, I became a good guy that anyone could bully. Now because of your words again, I have to become a bad man." Without realizing it, Jishang had already walked out of the school building. This was also the first time in 10 years he had skipped class. Just then the noise from around the corner caught Jishang's attention. When he looked closer, he saw Shen Jingjia, who had stolen Xu Zhen away, with a strange girl by his side. As Jishang wondered what they were doing, Shen Jingjia walked away with the girl towards the outside of the school. As soon as they stepped out the door, the girl looped her arm around Shen Jingji's. Seeing this, Jishang gritted his teeth in anger. So Xu Zhen really likes this kind of person. Seeing this, the girl quickly rejected him. But how could he let a fish almost caught slip away? Shen Jingjia grabbed the girl's hand and tried to pull her inside. In a critical moment, Jishang picked up a stone from the ground. He threw it straight at Shen Jingjia. Maybe it was his YTH time, and it actually hit the girl's head. Shen Jingjia started to panic. That bastard threw the stone from the shadows. "Come out here." Zhang Jishang ignored him. Instead, he picked up the stone and threw it again. This time it hit Shen Jingjia right in the forehead. Seeing this, Zhang Jishang grabbed Li Yiji and ran. They ran for 10 kilometers before stopping. To make up for his earlier mistake, Zhang Jishang bought a band-aid and handed it to Li Yiji. At that moment, Shen Jingjia called. Li Yiji hadn't said anything when she picked up the phone, but the other side erupted in anger. Who was the kid that threw the stone earlier? He was still wearing our school uniform. They thought Li Yiji would give him away, but instead she yelled back into the phone. After cursing, she hung up. This made Zhang Jishang give her a thumbs up, and so the two of them continued in this tense atmosphere. After completing the YTH state, he returned to school and was told by his classmates that his skipping class had already been noticed by the homeroom teacher. He was told to go to the administration office immediately. Zhang Zhishang looked at the exaggerated decorations on his body and decided to take them off before going. But when he went to remove his rings, he realized that the Qinglong ring was missing. He searched everywhere but couldn't find it. Now he was completely panicked. This was the gift that Qi Shang uncle gave him to help him go bad. It was also the gift his father had given to Qi Shang when he was young. It was significant and his father had told him to take good care of it. He was told to return it when he passed away. Little did he know when he threw the stone earlier, he had accidentally dropped it there. It was then picked up by Shen Jingjia. Unaware, Zhishang thought he had dropped it in the classroom, so he hurried back to his desk to search for it. While he was searching, Shen Jingjia kicked him down from behind. Then he started to beat him relentlessly. Looking at Zhishang lying on the ground, Shen Jingjia touched his chin. Just as he raised his fist to strike again, Li Yiji appeared at the door. "I'm the one who hit him. Taking your anger out on an innocent person, are you even a man?" Seeing this, Shen Jingjia grabbed Li Yiji by the collar and was about to hit her. At this moment, Li Yiji thought of someone who could make Shen Jingjia scared. "The person who hit you is Song Jiangxi. If you're brave enough, go hit him back." Hearing the name Song Jiangxi, Shen Jingjia trembled involuntarily. Cold sweat started to appear on his face. But under the gaze of the entire class, if he didn't dare to fight back, how would he ever be the boss? He walked up to Song Jiangxi and called out a few times. And there was no response. Shen Jingjia kicked Song Jiangxi's desk hard. Then he grabbed his collar and taunted him. Song Jiangxi didn't let him off easily. He responded with a pair of merciless iron hands. Just a little pressure, and Shen Jingji's body started shaking in pain. He desperately tried to pull his hands apart. The sharp pain in his arms made him grit his teeth. Before leaving, he left a harsh remark. "We'll see about that." He then came to Zhang Zhishang's side. He grabbed his head. "That kid's build looks just like this useless guy. But this useless guy doesn't have that kind of guts." It was this movement that made Zhang Zhishang notice the Qinglong ring on Shen Jingji's hand. Now how would he explain this to Uncle Qi Shang? When he dragged his injured body through the door, his uncles all bent down to greet him. But the next second they all lost their composure, because they saw Zhishang covered in wounds and footprints. Uncle Dao Ba immediately said this was a challenge to our Fire Bear gang's dignity. The brothers grabbed their weapons ready to act. As soon as he finished speaking, the uncles were already getting ready. The noise reached Uncle Qi Zhang's ears. When he heard Uncle Dao Ba say that Zhishang had been bullied, his temples immediately bulged. His head swelled into what was known as a red walnut head. Just as the uncles were preparing to leave and avenge Zhishang, Uncle Shu hurriedly stopped them. "The young master is the future king of our gang. At the beginning of the fight we shouldn't interfere." Hearing this, everyone dropped their weapons. They all bowed and apologized to Uncle Shu. And Uncle Shu asked everyone to go to the meeting room for a discussion. Zhishang looked at his uncles, who were neatly organized. He was stunned. He thought to himself he had just been beaten up. Was there really a need for such a big fuss? "Young master, did you make the first move today?" Everyone immediately looked at Zhishang with anticipation. But when Zhishang said he hadn't even touched them, everyone was disappointed. "However, I did hit his forehead with a stone." Everyone cheered up again. But Uncle Shu, standing to the side, looked unhappy. "Young master, when dealing with thugs you should use your fists, not weapons. You got beaten up today because you can't fight. But the blood running through you is that of the Fire Bear gang's leader. With a little training you'll definitely get stronger. The key is to let Zhishang develop a habit of winning first." But what Uncle Shu said next left Zhishang stunned. "Young master, in order to start training, you must first beat someone weaker than you." This was not an easy task for Zhishang, who had been kind for 10 years. Looking at the embarrassed Zhishang, Uncle Qi Shang comforted him. "Young master, you have to get used to beating people weaker than you. We also went through this ourselves." At this moment, Uncle Shu, standing to the side, couldn't resist adding fuel to the fire. "Young master, Qi Shang is right. We believe in you." Everyone cheered him on. The next day, when Zhishang was getting ready to go to school, he was suddenly called by Uncle Qi Shang. "Young master, you should tuck your shirt into your pants." Zhishang quickly tidied up and rushed out. When he arrived at school, he was immediately called to the administration office by the homeroom teacher. His uncle was known as H country's Ma Dongzi. Anyone who came under his hand was like a tiny ant. A fork-shaped scar on his forehead was proof of his fight with wild boars. Anyone who provoked him would be eliminated by his ruthless iron hands. But today Zhishang was going to bring him to school. It was because the homeroom teacher wanted to call Zhishang's father. Zhishang was afraid that if his father came, the homeroom teacher would lose his position. He quickly suggested that his uncle should come instead. Because his father was the emperor of the Fire Bear Gang. He had a group of underlings as tough as Liu Huachang. When the homeroom teacher saw Uncle Qi Shang, he almost fainted. He shakily led him into his office. He quickly brought over the best Thai Guan Yin tea, and said that Qi Shang's recent school behavior had some issues. Uncle Qi Shang was very pleased to hear this, but it scared the homeroom teacher so much that his wig flew off. He quickly spoke up saying Qi Shang was the model student of YX. Little did they know Uncle's face suddenly changed. You said Qi Shang is not a problem child? The homeroom teacher quickly responded there is a problem, and it's quite serious. Uncle's face then showed a relieved smile. He then said goodbye to the homeroom teacher and left. On the way back, Uncle suddenly asked Qi Shang if he had kept the Qinglong ring he had given him safe. To avoid upsetting Uncle, Qi Shang lied saying the ring was in his room. What Qi Shang didn't know was that yesterday Uncle had just passed by Shen Jingjia, and had noticed the Qinglong ring on his hand right away. But seeing that Shen Jingjia was wearing the same school uniform as Qi Shang, he thought he was Qi Shang's friend, so he didn't question him. Now Uncle realized that Shen Jingjia was not Qi Shang's friend, but rather the person who had been bullying Qi Shang. The next day Uncle arrived at the school burning with anger. He saw a figure that looked very much like Shen Jingjia. Uncle approached and grabbed him only to realize he had mistaken the person. Then he recalled what Uncle Shu had said earlier. The young master is the future pillar of our family. You shouldn't get involved in small matters. So he had no choice but to leave. Meanwhile Shen Jingjia was showing off to two of his lackeys about the Qinglong ring he had found. The guy with the yellow hair said this ring was probably worth 2 million, and he could help Shen Jingjia sell it for a small fee. Shen Jingjia without thinking agreed, because he urgently needed money to buy a motorcycle. What he didn't know was that this ring was going to bring him a lot of trouble. The next day the guy with yellow hair took Shen Jingjia to a pawn shop. To look more impressive, Shen Jingjia wore his brother's clothes. Looking at the shabby pawn shop, Shen Jingjia hesitated to go in, but under the yellow hair guy's urging, the two of them walked into the pawn shop. To his surprise the shopkeeper was Uncle Qi Shang. At this point the yellow hair guy was trembling with fear. The sound of the rolling shutter closing could be heard outside. Next came the time for Uncle Qi Zhang's solo performance. At this moment Shen Jingjia was shaking all over with fear, thinking that the yellow hair guy had betrayed him. Shen Jingjia hurriedly shouted that he would return the ring to Uncle Qi Shang. Uncle Qi Shang ignored him. Instead he gripped his knuckle duster and told Shen Jingjia that it might hurt a bit. Before Shen Jingjia could react, Uncle Qi Shang threw a punch at Shen Jingjia. Punch almost knocked him out. Then he grabbed his hair. You better keep that ring safe. Your principal will personally come to find you. If you dare sell it to anyone else, I'll kill you. Shen Jingjia quickly agreed, but Uncle, seeing his young age, and that his hair was a mess, decided to teach him a lesson. Shen Jingjia was so moved he almost burst into tears. Meanwhile Qi Shang had just returned home, only to find his uncles all bowing with their heads on the ground. Qi Shang thought something had happened. When he looked inside he was surprised to see his father had returned. The reason the uncles at the door were acting that way was because Qi Shang had been bullied at school. His father was punishing them. He harshly told Qi Shang that if he remained so weak, he would no longer be his son. After saying this he left without looking back. Qi Shang knew his father was a bad man. He also hated his own weakness. Uncle Shu told Qi Shang that if you have something you want to protect, then you must have the power to protect it. Sitting on the bed Qi Shang thought of Shu Zhen, because Shu Zhen was the person he wanted to protect. At that moment he finally made a decision. He would accept the training, he would become strong. The uncles were greatly pleased to hear this. Uncle Shu entrusted the special training to Uncle Qi Shang. On the way to the training ground, Uncle Qi Shang asked Qi Shang again about the Qinglong ring. This time Qi Shang didn't lie. He said he had accidentally lost it and Shen Jingjia had found it. Uncle Qi Shang said he could help get it back, as long as the young master agreed. Although Qi Shang had wanted his uncle to take care of Shen Jingjia before, he now decided to get it back using his own strength. Uncle Qi Shang was moved when he heard this. He hugged Qi Shang tightly. Young master, you've finally grown up. Next came the basic 3 training exercises. The first was the barbell squat. Second was the empty barbell bench press. But Qi Shang couldn't even lift the empty barbell. This made Uncle Qi Shang a bit frustrated. The next exercise was the deadlift. At this point Uncle Qi Shang had no expectations left for Qi Shang, but the next second Qi Shang effortlessly completed it. Seeing this, Uncle Qi Shang added more weight for Qi Shang. To his surprise Qi Shang still completed it easily. Qi Shang said, this is too easy. I can add even more weight. This left Uncle Qi Shang stunned.